So I've been kind of on the hunt for a reverb and delay pedal that has all the functionality of one of the bigger box reverb and delay pedals, like something like the Strymon, Blue Sky, and the Timeline, but in a much smaller form factor. I used to have a really big board that probably would have fit those pedals, but I kind of got tired of having to carry around a bunch of pedals and then take up so much stage room and stuff. You know, because if you're going to like a gig and you're bringing this huge board that's taking up a good portion of a small stage, like, it's annoying. And I felt like anytime I was doing that, I was like getting in the way, and I did not like that experience of having a huge board. So I have somewhat recently downsized to a much smaller board. I'm using the mono pedal board, and I actually have a whole video going through my pedal board if you guys are interested in that, and you can see that on my YouTube channel. In searching for these pedals to fit on my smaller board, I came across Walrus Audio, which I had known Walrus Audio from their chorus, I think it's called the Julia. I never owned one, but I always thought they looked nice and they sounded great, of course, in all the videos and stuff. And then I've also like talked to people who use Walrus Audio pedals, and they're always like, oh yeah, they're awesome. One of my buddies, Aaron Marshall, uses a bunch of Walrus Audio pedals and kind of put me in touch with the guys a little bit. So I was able to get the R1 reverb and the D1 delay. I kind of wanted to make this video to go through them and how I use them and why I use them. I'm kind of interested in doing more gear focused videos on my YouTube channel. So I think this is going to be maybe the start of that. I really like gear, and it's fun to talk about, and of course it's always fun to try a bunch of new things, and this will give me a reason to try new things. I'm also kind of the person where like I get something that I like and I just leave it. I don't try new things. So hopefully this kind of gets me back in the habit of trying a bunch of new pedals and stuff. Anyways, so to talk about kind of my signal chain that's happening here before we get into the pedals themselves. At the beginning of the chain, I'm using this beautiful Tamarack from Iconic Guitars, which is a T-style guitar. And then this one is a thin line, so it has the F hole and then it's double bound. And then Iconic's pretty known for their roasted flames of maple, so that's what's on this neck, is roasted flame maple. And I think rosewood fingerboard. And then I don't quite sure know what pickups are in these. I'm gonna assume that they're Iconic pickups. They make a set of T-style pickups. I really like them. So here's how this guitar sounds with no reverb and delay, just the amp, which I will get into in a moment. So shout out to Iconic Guitars for letting me borrow this guy from their shop. I would definitely check them out. I've been working with them for maybe 4 years now. I have a few of their guitars, and they're some of the best guitars I've ever played in my life. I'm not gonna go too on about it. I'm sure if you've seen me play before, you know I use Iconic Guitars, but do check them out. They've always got some cool stuff on their website. Check out their shop if you're ever in Carlsbad. Anyways, so to continue my chain, so from my guitar, I am going into the Origin Effects Cali 76, which is by far my favorite compressor I've ever used. It does the studio sound in a box kind of thing. I leave it on all the time. I'm an always on compressor guy. I just like it. I don't know, it gives me that sense of like polish that I really enjoy. So throughout this whole video, all the guitar tones are gonna be using the Cali 76. So just to kind of demo what it's doing, I'm first gonna turn it off and play something, and then turn it on and play something. If I turn it off, and then on. So it's also adding quite a bit of volume, which I like, so it's driving the amp a little bit more. It's just that really nice compressed thing without it sounding like the MXR Dynacomp kind of thing, which those are cool too, but I just really love the 1176 style compression. Compressor, and then out of the compressor, I'm going into the input of my quad cortex. So all the amp tones that you're hearing in this video are the quad cortex. The amp that I'm using in it is they call it the One Star. It's like the 50-watt Tweed one. It's based on a Mesa Boogie Lone Star, which is an awesome amp. I've never tried one in real life, but I've seen videos online of them and they sound amazing. So I'm doing that, and then I'm using a 212, I think one of the Zilla IRs that's built into the Quad Cortex. So that's all that's happening from the Quad Cortex is the amp and the cab. The routing that I'm doing, so I'm doing 4-cable method. So I'm going guitar into my compressor, into the input of the Quad Cortex, and then I'm going out one of the outs, I'm going out of the send of the Quad Cortex into my Walrus Audio D1, and then stereo from the Walrus Audio D1 to the Walrus Audio R1, and then stereo from the Walrus Audio R1 back into the Quad Cortex, return 1 and 2, and then out of the Quad Cortex in stereo into my interface, and it's being recorded into Logic. A lot of cables happening here, but it's working, so we're good. I feel like sometimes with rigs, like doing the 4-cable method, all stereo, like it's a lot. So it's actually more than 4 cables because I'm doing some stereo stuff. I think it's worth it, especially for recording. It's really cool. Anyways, let's get into some of these pedals. So the Walrus Audio D1 has 5 different styles of delay that you pick from using this knob on the middle. To kind of go in order, I'll read them off. So the delay styles that the D1 offers is digital, mod, which I'm actually not sure if it means modulation or modern, and then vintage, dual, and reverse. The ones that I mainly use on this pedal are the vintage and the reverse, because I like reverse delays. I think they sound really cool and weird. And then the vintage one, I just really enjoy the sound of it. So I'm gonna go through the different knobs in this pedal and kind of talk about what everything does and play some guitar tones for you guys to hear. You can make a decision yourself if you like it or not. Which, if you do like these pedals, let me know in the comments. Or if you have any other recommendations for reverbs and delays for me to check out, I would be very interested. I guess we'll just start at the beginning. So the first one is digital. So I'm gonna turn the knob to digital. Pretty cool. So the first knob that I kind of want to get into is this tweak knob. It's pretty cool. So it has 3 different functions for each style of delay. And they break it up with, there's a switch to switch between the different functions. So there's mod, tone, and age. So mod is the modulation. So you'll see if I turn the tweak knob all the way up with the modulation set, you get this really crazy modulation. That's a bit much for me. I think that'd be really cool as like an effect, but in normal playing, I think that's maybe a bit much. So I'm gonna go like halfway. And that sounds like. A little bit more subtle. I actually really like the sound of the modulation on delay. It gives it kind of like a chorusy vibe. So the next tweak setting is tone. So if I turn the switch to tone, so this is all the way to the left, which is gonna take away a lot of high end, and it's gonna be mainly just like low and low mids. That's really cool for a really darker kind of thing. Something where you're playing parts and you don't want the delay to stand out too much. You can use the tone knob to kind of make it a little more subtle, take off a lot of the high end, you know? So here's the tone all the way up, so it's gonna be much brighter. So like that's when you really want to hear some delay. I'm gonna put it back in the middle, and then the age knob makes it sound, it adjusts the age I guess. So this is with the tweak turned all the way down on the age setting. And then if I turn it all the way up, so I guess it does a different thing for each setting, but on the digital setting, it's adding like a bit crusher effect to it, which is weird, but could be cool. I mean, all this stuff, it's like, it's all just creative sounds. So like, if you're writing a song and can't kind of figure out where to go next with it, you can go into these kinds of pedals and like really get inspired to write a new part. So I'm gonna turn that all the way down, and then let's try a different one. So I'm gonna go to the vintage delay setting. Another feature that this delay pedal has that I think is really, really cool is this attack knob. So the attack knob lets you take out the initial attack or the initial like percussive sound of hitting guitar strings from the delay. So for example, with it all the way to the left, which means that it's not taking out any attack, it sounds like that. But if I turn it all the way to the right, you'll hear it's cutting off the front of the note. So it's kind of like swelling in a little bit. It's another way to make a delay a bit more subtle and not get in the way of what you're actually playing. I'm gonna have the attack turned all the way to the right, and then I'm gonna turn up the mix a little bit so that you can hear it a bit better. And then say I hold out some chords, you'll kind of hear how it still works because the attack is turned all the way to the right. So you can hear that the delay is like swelling in, which I think is a really cool sound, especially for like really ambient kinds of things. So I really enjoy that sound. So I'm not gonna go through all the settings. Another cool feature is that it has the tap tempo, and then if you press both of the foot switches at the same time, it actually lets you switch between presets that you can save. So you can save up to 3, and then there's also a switch to switch between bank A, bank B, and bank C, and so you can have 3 presets per bank. So it lets you get some of the saving presets and getting deep into adjusting and tweaking the sound, just like the bigger pedals, all in a really small package. It's kind of crazy. It's actually smaller, I think, than my Kali 76, which is just a compressor. Anyways, so that's the Walrus Audio D1. And now let's check out the Walrus Audio R1. So the Walrus Audio R1 is very similar to the D1 in terms of controls. So the layout is pretty much exactly the same, but instead of an attack knob, there's a tune knob. There's also a swell knob, which we will get into. It's from the same series, right? So there's the R1, the D1, and then the M1, which I don't have the M1, but the M1 is modulation. But they all function very similarly, and they all have MIDI in and MIDI out, which I've not had a chance to use. I really like these pedals. I like how small they are and for how much they do. So the R1 has 6 different reverb sounds. There's some cool ones. There's like an air, there's like a plate. There's the kind of normal ones, right? Like the plate, spring, call. Then there's weirder ones like react, and there's air, and then there's one more, which I'm not really sure what it stands for. It's just like 3 letters. And then it also has a tweak knob. This one has a tune knob, which lets you adjust different things within the reverb using a switch like the D1. So I'll kind of go through some of the sounds and show you what the knobs do. So I switched to the Hall setting because I think it sounds cool. And so that's the main one that I'm gonna go over for this pedal. So the tweak knob on the R1 has 3 settings. So it has rate, depth, and pre-delay. So I'll kind of go through what each of them sounds like with the tweak knob turned all the way to the left and then all the way to the right. So pre-delay, I'm going to turn all the way to the left. You'll notice that the reverb happens immediately as I hit the note. So if I turn it all the way to the right, it's actually going to delay the reverb after I hit the note. So in a way, it actually makes the reverb sound bigger because it's like you're in a huge room and you're hearing your guitar signal hit like a back wall or spread throughout a canyon or something and then come back to you. So it just kind of makes it sound like it's bigger than it really is. So I'm going to leave that in the middle, and then we have the depth knob, which I'm going to turn all the way to the left. And then all the way to the right. And then rate. So I'm going to put the back in the middle, and then rate all the way to the left. And then all the way to the right. So the depth and rate is like modulation. So I'm gonna turn the tweak knob, the rate down a little bit. That's pretty crazy. It's a bit much for me, but if you want to add a lot of modulation to your reverb, that is how you would do it. And then the tune knob is pretty much just like to tweak the EQ of your reverb. So if I turn the low end all the way off, there's no low end. If I turn it all the way up, you hear all that low end come back in the reverb. And then there's a high, which same exact thing. And if I turn it all the way up, so I'm gonna just show one more of the reverb styles, and then we will conclude this YouTube video. Another really cool knob that this reverb has is a swell knob. So this actually takes out the attack of even your guitar signal. If I turn the swell, because right now the swell's all the way off, but if I turn it all the way up, you're gonna hear my guitar is gonna, well, swell in. So this is it with it turned all the way up. So when you're using it, you just kind of have to be careful not to let a note ring out and play another note while still letting the previous note ring out. You have to stop the previous note and then start a new note for the swell to keep happening. So I'm just gonna show off maybe one more sound from this reverb pedal. So this is a weird one. This is the react setting in the reverb. Thank you guys for watching the YouTube video. I hope that you enjoyed it. I'm gonna leave links to my social media, my website, and my music in the description, so be sure to check them out. Again, thanks to Iconic Guitars for letting me borrow this guy, and a huge shout out to Walrus Audio for letting me try out these pedals. I've been really enjoying them, and I hope you guys enjoyed the tones. My website is joshuadelavictoria.com. My Instagram is @joshdela. Anyways, subscribe, leave a like, leave a comment. I would like to do more gear videos, so if any companies out there are trying to send me some gear, I would be down. Leave a comment, maybe give me some gear, some pedals, guitar pedals to check out, and maybe purchase a few and do some demos on my YouTube channel. Anyways, have a nice day. Bye.